I'm not gonna lie, I do feel a little bit nervous, and that's because I wasn't really expecting to do this video, and here I am. So I feel like a lot of you already know quite a bit about me. I do be quite honest and share my treatments and experiences, not to be an advocate of surgery or say you should get this or you will look better if you have that. It's more of an informative source, because I know that I value people's opinions. If they've been through something and I'm maybe thinking about going through the same, or I am going through the same, then I do value that person's opinion who is actually going through something similar. So for my treatments, they have been more so for corrective reasons, but even if I'd wanted them done just because, then that is fine. That is my prerogative. I'm a grown woman and I feel like it's my choice. So I have kept one thing private, and there's a number of reasons for that. So not many people know, but I have had breast augmentation. I know some of you might have had an inkling, but you know, I'm too polite and nice to have asked. And the majority though would never know. And that is because I did have it done before I started YouTube, and I've been on YouTube about 8 years or so now. So I did have it done before that. So those who have followed me from the very beginning until now, they wouldn't have noticed any change other than my pregnancies of my body changing. So that's why it has never ever been brought up, because it's not like one day I looked a certain way, then another day I suddenly was different. So as I say, there's a number of reasons why I haven't mentioned it. At the time I was 24 when I had it done, so you know, they're 10 years old, or they're coming up to 10 years old December the 4th, I think. One of the big things that kind of stuck out for me is that I didn't want people of my age at that time thinking that, oh, Carly's had it done, I'm gonna get mine done. And when I look back, I was 24, and I know that's not young, because I think you can get it done when you're 18. And it took me from being very young, going through a lot of experiences and thoughts, and deciding, humming and hawing, that I did take a lot of time to think about it and get it done when I was 24. I paid for it myself. I didn't ask for anything off my parents. I just went ahead and I thought, if I'm going to do this, then it's up to me to finance it and do everything. But at the time when I started YouTube, I did still feel mentally quite young. I know I'd had a child, so I was very responsible. I was living in another country without family or friends and bringing up a baby with Richard. So we were very responsible people. However, I did still feel quite young, and I thought, oh, I don't want anyone else feeling that they have to get this done, because not that they have to get this done, or that, oh, I'm gonna get it done because she's got it done and she seems to think it's all right. And although I do think that it's okay as long as you do research and blah blah, again, I'm not an advocate for it, I'm not pushing any surgery, but I did feel like my demographic then was obviously a lot younger, and I thought, I don't want to be an impression on these young girls, so I just never ever mentioned it at all. And for me, I definitely wasn't ready for judgment. I wouldn't say that I had low self-esteem, however, because I was very, very confident in certain areas. I did have quite a boyish figure, but a bit of a bigger bum, because I used to do a lot of weights with my friend who was a bodybuilder. So I had quite a disproportionate body. But I loved other areas of my body, like I liked my arms and I liked my legs and this, that, the other. So I didn't have total like low self-esteem. However, I did have quite a few knocks, and previous relationships and stuff like that did knock my confidence. And so when you are, you know, early 20s, close to mid 20s, you are still getting used to things, you are still growing as a person, and you've got to grow that thicker skin. And I think that's what I was developing. I was starting to develop the thicker skin, but at that time I wasn't like ready to to talk about it. So why I got them done. Okay, I'm going to be 100% honest here. It is a bit embarrassing, but you know, I know that the majority of women probably have the same issue. It is very natural, but in some cases it's a lot more dramatic than others. So my left breast was bigger than my right, and I think a lot of women, it is naturally that, and they say it's because of the blood supply on the left hand side. I don't know if that's true or not, but it's very odd that in the majority of women who do have one bigger than the other, it's the left hand side. And with me, although it wasn't like a full cup size different, which is so unfortunate because it does happen, it was still noticeable with the eye, and if you felt it, you could tell that there was a difference there, and it did make me feel really uncomfortable. It did kind of knock my confidence, I'm not gonna lie. I did feel very anxious and nervous when it came to wearing certain clothes. In fact, I couldn't wear certain things, or not that I couldn't, because that's very silly. Back then I thought I couldn't, but it was a case of I was too embarrassed to, and so I was like, right, okay. I spoke to my mum and I was like, I really want to get them done. She says, have a little think, you're still growing. By that time I was 18, and I know a lot of people will be like, 18? That's like 18, 19, that's like old. Old as in development wise. I was a late developer. I didn't get my period until I was 16, 17 or something. So I specifically said to the consultant, who was also my surgeon, so I said to her, look, I want to even them out. One, my left is bigger than the right. And I want to go up a size, but not too big. So I want to be a full C. So at the time I was a B, I think like a 32 or 34 B, probably a 32 because I was slimmer then and I had quite a small back. And so I said, I just want to go up one size. I want to feel comfortable and a little bit fuller in my costumes and stuff like that. She's like, okay. So we did go up a size. She put more cc's in the right. So that means there's technically a bigger implant in my right hand side. However, my left hand side is still bigger, and I don't know why. I don't know why now that it's gone bigger than that one, even though that one's got the bigger implant in than that. I don't know if it's because of the pregnancies, the breastfeeding, I don't know. It's not like as noticeable as it was before, but feeling wise I can still feel it, and I don't know why. I don't know why that's keep creeping up, but anyways, it's probably very natural now, the difference in size, but still, I don't know how, it's just bigger. So the experience for me is something that I would never want to go through again. That particular experience, it was just horrible. So I'm not going to say who the people are who did it, because I don't want to recommend them in any way. And it wasn't Maya or Transform, you know, it wasn't the ones that are very popular now. It was neither of them. But as I say, I just don't even want to mention them because the aftercare and everything was terrible. So, and by the way, it was for me personally, because my friend got them done with the same person and she was absolutely fine. Her aftercare was fine, and she managed to actually cope with everything really well. So it wasn't the best experience, and I'm going to be very honest, I'm pretty terrified if I need to get it done again. I'm sure, I'm positive that I'll not have an experience like that again. However, it sticks in your mind, and I'm just not prepared for that. And I think, was it worth getting them done to have to get them done again? Now, I was told that the ones that I had done, they don't need replacing unless they encapsulate. So encapsulate is something your body does. It's nothing to do with the surgery. It's more about how your body reacts to a foreign object. So it can get scar tissue all around it. So basically your body's like, what is this? It goes, it like attacks it kind of thing. And it puts scar tissue all around it. That scar tissue can contract and stuff, and then it can make it all out of shape. So you might see some people's celebrities and they're like really misshapen and stuff. That can be because of the scar tissue, which is another procedure you need to have done. So it is a lot to think about. That is one thing I didn't look into beforehand. Thankfully mine seem okay. They're very, very soft, so they're not the hard type of implant, they're not silicone, they're something else which I can't remember, but they're the ones that if you cut them in half, nothing will leak out. So you know like a, what do you call them, jelly baby, you know, if you cut a jelly baby in half, nothing comes out. So she demonstrated that with me, and I was like, oh, okay, because I didn't want any fluid, if anything happened, I didn't want any fluid going around my body. So I know some of you might be thinking, right, you had them done and then you've had 2 pregnancies since, and that is right. So I had them done, and then about 6 months or something after, 4 or 5, I can't remember, I fell pregnant with my first son. So they were already quite swollen, because I think they can take quite a while for the actual swelling to go down. So they were still swollen, and then I fell pregnant. And to be very, very completely honest with you, I didn't think that my boobs would change when I was pregnant. I thought, oh, they'll get a little bit fuller, but because I've always been quite small, I don't think that I'm the kind of body shape where they would change. Because there are a lot of people like that. It doesn't mean because you're pregnant that you get massive boobs. And so I didn't think nothing of it at all. So then they started to grow, and I was like, oh my god, they went so big that I couldn't put my my arm down, and I was like, oh my goodness. So at the side, so although the surgery and everything, that was fine, everything had healed, and I was no longer in any pain. I was now in a bit of pain from the pregnancy, and with them growing and not being able to move, because it's like when you are on your period and you get really sore, very sensitive boobs. So if you touch them or knock them, they just feel very, very sore. It was like that, and they went up to about an F by the time he was born. Then after breastfeeding, which by the way was completely fine, I didn't have any complications or nothing, they went down to a D. Now I had mine put behind the muscle, so some people have it put in front, and there can be different reasons for that. I had it put behind the muscle, and that was because 1, I wanted it to look more natural, 2, I was quite small, and if I had it put in the front, then you would really be able to tell, because I didn't have a lot of body fat. So they put it behind, and I didn't experience any issues with breastfeeding at all. I mean, the surgery, they didn't touch my nipples or anything, so they were still fine and intact and hadn't been tampered with. So breastfeeding was good. And then once I lost weight, they did go back down to a C, but they weren't as full as what they were when, you know, a few months after having them done. They did go down quite small, but I wasn't bothered about that, because I still like the shape of them. But you know, it just shows that they can kind of fluctuate with your own body, if you know what I mean. The implant's still going to be there, but the fluid and fat around it is going to differ at different times depending on what's going on in your life. When I fell pregnant with Olivier, they did grow quite a bit again, but I was a little bit slimmer because I'd been working out quite a bit. So I was a little bit slimmer when I did fall pregnant with Olivier, so I kind of kept that physique somehow, and they didn't grow too big, they went to a D. But I did breastfeed for 5 to 6 months, so they were quite big. And in some pictures, when I first started breastfeeding, I'm like, wow, I didn't realize that at the time that's how big they were. So they have went down since I haven't been breastfeeding for what is it, nearly a year, coming up on 10 months. And I have been working out quite a bit, so you know, naturally they have got smaller, because my body type is, it's the last place to put weight on and it's the first place it'll go. So I've never been able to hold fat in my boobs for long, so naturally when I work out they just go down. So recently I've been getting some very kind comments about how my body is looking after having 2 kids, and people saying that you're an inspiration and things like that, which are all so lovely. But I also want to share this because I don't want to feel like I'm hiding something, or I've never quite told the truth or anything, because I have had obviously a little bit of help in the boob area, and you know, although they have grown naturally with pregnancy and breastfeeding and things, and then went down naturally with me working out and eating healthy. I obviously have still had that help with the shape, the fact that they've maintained that little bit fullness, because trust me, when you breastfeed, your boobs deflate, okay? How mine are now, so the shape that I asked for, by the way, was a pear, yeah, like a pear, like a teardrop shape. That's the one that I wanted. So I've never really had the fullness in the top. Even when I was a B, it was all like the fullness was mostly at the bottom, and I still wanted that shape because I did really like the shape. It's just I wanted a little bit more fullness in the middle and then slightly more in the top. So after giving birth to Andre, it wasn't so bad. Then I fell pregnant again, and then with the second breastfeeding, because I breastfed for way longer than I did Andre, I just noticed a difference immediately in the fullness of them. Despite having the implant in there, they just feel very empty, if you will. And obviously they've maintained the shape because the implant's there at the bottom, kind of holding that shape, although you guys don't really see that. It just means this top bit it just feels empty now. So if this is something that you are considering and you've got your head and heart set on it and you've done your research and stuff, then remember to think about the other things, like will these need replacing? Think about the encapsulation that could happen. Think about the downtime, so you might need 2 to 3 weeks off. I only booked 2 weeks off work, but I definitely needed 3, because at the time I remember walking around work like this because I felt like my ribs had been broken, but it was just because they had to cut across the muscle. It was just that all repairing. It was very, very painful. So just take all these things into consideration, the cost, then the time out. I don't know if you get certain amount of weeks holidays a year, you're going to use up quite a lot of that time, possibly. Might not be, but just possibly. And you know, take all that in first. So I have talked quite a bit there, and despite this being a bit of a pun, I feel like I have got it off my chest. Obviously it's been something that I've kept to myself this whole time on YouTube, and now that I feel like I can say it, then no one can come back and say, oh well, you didn't say that, you didn't say that. There you are. I hope this video has helped. Let me know if you have any questions. No, I'm not going to share who the company was because I don't feel like they need any kind of shout out for me, good or bad. I just don't want to publicize that kind of company. They might be better now, I don't care. Just the fact is, I'm still very angry about what they did. And I'm sure that there's better companies out there. So that is that. So there's more videos coming, so make sure you're subscribed and turn that notifications on, because YouTube doesn't always notify everyone who is subscribed. So if you do find out that you're missing some videos, that is probably why. So just click that bell on, and I will see you guys in my next video. In fact, if you want to see more of our family stuff, then we vlog Monday to Friday, so every day, 5 days a week. Check it out over there, link is below.